I'm Christopher Korban. Before I begin a pitch like this, I like to ask a question. Has anyone been touched by cancer, impacted by cancer, know someone that has passed away from cancer, has been touched? So I'd like everyone to take a look around the room, see everyone who's been impacted. Okay. I am also one of those people, and I like to think that cancer is not just a statistic, it's something that affects each one of us very personally. And for me, my mom passed away from cancer, and so this is an issue that is very deep to me. With some of the investigation that I've done, I found that there is a large plethora of drugs out there from these large pharmaceuticals that have failed, whether it be a lack of safety, efficacy. We see that the drug development pipeline is very, very competitive. Less than 15% actually survive this commercialization. It takes $1 to $3 billion just to develop them, and this cost is increasing, and it could take 10 to 15 years just to get to market. And so we need to understand why these drugs are actually abandoned. Could be safety, efficacy, like I mentioned. Could be change business direction, which is usually seen with an executive transition. And there are huge barriers to actually repurposing these drugs because of the lack of finances that these people have in pharma space and because of the lack of time when developing this. And so we need to understand the drug development process. First, you need to identify your hit. You need to actually optimize this hit. You need to generate your lead and actually take it to the market. For us, we're not going anywhere beyond actual IND submission. What we're doing is taking these drugs that have been abandoned, taking them through AI predictive analytics, and actually going into the wet lab in a much direct and quicker way to actually get it into the FDA. And because this data already exists, it's a reduced pipeline. And so what we've estimated based on the numbers that we've gotten from CROs and pharmaceuticals in the space is a 4 to 7 year time reduction and $800 million cost reduction. Now, we need to understand the vast potential that exists in the chemical space. There's 10 to the 60th compounds that possibly could exist in the universe. And so this is an unlimited potential for pharmaceutical companies to explore, but it's not able to be tapped in because of a lack of resources. And so traditional drug discovery is you identify your target, whether it be a gene, a protein, something that's heavily expressed that can be targeted and cause a phenotypic effect. What happens is this will usually go to a medicinal chemist, this will go into the pipeline. It's a very slow, inefficient procedure. The way that we're approaching this is through a generative chemistry model. And so we're able to investigate this huge space and actually identify certain compounds that can target your specific disease subset, take it through an in silico pipeline, and then you still will need to go to in vitro testing, but the cost and time reduction is huge, especially for the drug development pipeline that's so inefficient. And so what I like to think about this process is instead of looking for a needle in a haystack, which is the traditional thing, we're generating a new needle that can eventually, or in this case, a dart that can eventually hit your compound and generate a phenotypic effect, whether it be cancer, in our case, looking at triple negative breast cancer, or really any disease possible. The way that we have to approach this and understand it is just for one screen of 1,500 compounds with robotic labs. People at UCLA, we have facilities there that can do this, can cost $20,000. But even just for one gene therapy, one small molecule gene therapy, this requires up to 350,000 compounds to screen through. So you can start burning through these costs very quickly, even before you even get to the market. So you incur huge downstream costs. Now, based on the customers that we've talked to and based on investors in the space, we've slightly pivoted to direct de novo drug discovery before we investigate this repurposing market. And this is the way that we're doing it. The first step is understanding your disease, identifying your model, and actually understanding what proteins, what genes you need to hit. So for us, we're looking at cancer. We're looking at multi-species input, different cell lines. And from these expression profiles, all a user needs to do on our end, especially, is just input a data set, and through an automated data pipeline, you're able to analyze what sort of criteria this protein target will hit. And finally, what you're able to do just based off disease, just based off structural protein, our physics-driven AI approach is able to generate 30,000 hit compounds. Like we saw before, this may not be too wide of a space given that there's 10 to the 60th compounds available, but we're able to scale this to 6 million analogs and push it through a pipeline of filtering where we see, is this hitting your target? how specifically is this hitting your target? Is this a novel compound? Are there patents out there for these compounds? What are similar compounds out there? And finally, what AI companies can't do is this synthesizable, which we can analyze at the end of the day and send into the wet lab. Again, this is a huge, huge market. We're growing at 30% year over year. And the more time we go along, the more we're seeing that a consolidation of the industry is happening. And so first one in is going to gain a huge market share. And so we're looking to penetrate this huge growing market, both in the pharmaceutical space and years down the line into the biotech industry, both of which are growing at a huge rate and both already contain a huge subset of the market. And so the business model here is we're offering software as a service, or in this case, a research tool for drug discoverers to go at an exponential rate quicker and loop this in with our own internal drug discovery for triple negative breast cancer, which we've already begun. And so what we want to do is garner these industry and academia partnerships and license the product out. We see there's different licensing fees, and from there, due to the success of what we're actually able to do from the foundation, we're able to charge milestone payments from hit identification, lead optimization. We're able to go through preclinical development and finally clinical development for these milestone successes. And so what we want to do now is validate all the way to the in vivo stage, where just about the preclinical cutoff is, because we don't want to deal with the FDA. And we're going to license out our IP portfolio to these large pharmaceutical companies to actually get these out to the market a lot quicker. And so competitive advantage here is we're specializing in cancer. We have decently large competitors in the space, but this is, again, a very new and growing industry, especially now with the boom of AI. We're looking to repurpose down the line. And right now, we're able to do de novo drug discovery at an efficiency rate of about 90% for 85 different safety and efficacy properties, including hit identification. Now, what we do that other companies can't do is computation at scale. We're looking at a huge chemical space that we're looking at. And finally, most companies fail in the compute and they're not able to translate to the wet lab. That's where we take over and actually get that to the wet lab. Our team is pretty extensive, you're about to see, but I come from UCLA. There's a couple others here. I have a background theoretically in bioengineering, in the lab, chemical engineering. My co-founder, valedictorian at Keck School of Medicine, now works at Genentech, and the youngest SBIR winner for NASA, who created AI space launch technologies, is also on board as our CTO. We have a very vast team of developers, AI engineers, data engineers, software engineers, biomedical engineers. So we're a pretty vast team. And we have a huge board of advisors. Many are not on here. So we have all of the intuition that goes behind this, given that it's such a huge problem. You need a huge community to actually tackle it. And so our partners currently, we have NVIDIA Inception providing a lot of the software and hardware support, along with collaborators overseas to actually get this done. Right now, where we're at is we've completed fundraising to about 80% of our first milestone, but we're finalizing that first fundraising round to actually get into the wet lab to make sure that all of our computations that we have ready to go are able to be deployed. And once that hits, every single person that I've talked to from the customer standpoint has said, once we get validation for this product, there's going to be large scale adoption. And that's where we're going now. And there's a huge rush to go there now that there's more companies in this domain. So we are looking for that 500,000 number for R&D, operational costs, business development, and actually building the compute infrastructure that we're developing. And we are looking to repurpose, but for now, discover new cancer therapeutics that are more potent and safer as well. Thank you.
Very good. Let's just start with a person question.
Scaling up computational power, is that cloud-based or are you developing proprietary?
No, this is all cloud-based, all through AWS. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you see the emergent competition from like AlphaFold is offered by Google?
So AlphaFold is not a competition. They're a foundational network that pharma companies are using to develop, right? For us, they're not a competitor at all to us, but they're a tool that we can deploy to refine our search for once we've actually gotten 6 million compounds, refine it to 200. How can we position the molecules around the protein to ensure that it's inhibiting whatever it was doing originally?
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Has there been any like simulation compared to the how like your software program works versus the actually like developed, like traditionally developed small molecule compared with the process, like how the drug discovery process by this new technology is much faster, more less prone to false hit, such things?
Yeah, so we actually this week just screened for 25,000 already FDA approved molecules and already gotten our data. But now we're creating our new set for our proprietary targets that we're going for with our own foundational filtering algorithm based on those molecules that already exist. And we found good data. Yeah.
My question was more about business model, and are you, is there like a two-pronged business model where you're looking at kind of like a CRO service coupled with like a internal pipeline development, one funds the other, or is you're focusing on one or the other?
You have to be focused, but like you said, the first stage of this model is actually going to CROs and using them as our pipeline to distribute the software to the pharma companies who then go for early stage drug discovery. From there, the revenues generated will go into the proprietary drugs that we are discovering. But because of where we're at, we're already developing the drugs because the technology is at our disposal. But it is software feeds into drug discovery, and then it's a feedback loop. I think it's somewhere.
Very good. Thank you.